Salutations, folks. Happy New Year's. It is a new year. Welcome to 2026. If you are in the know, welcome back to the Shutter Saga Podcast. I am your host, Marvin Blue. With me, as always, is a wonderful friend, a wonderful guest, someone that is a part of the photography community doing this crazy thing we call photography. And I had to go back to the wishing well for this one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing in the guest that we have today. I'm going right into it. No crazy introductions. I'll announce sponsors and stuff later or just put it in the show notes, but I'm going to go right into my conversation. This is one of the few people who has known me since I was a young pup in this photography industry. When I say we go way back to not only to the beginning days of Shutterfest, but to the beginning days of the Midnight Madness classes from Melanie Anderson, to the Midnight Madness shootouts with Melanie Anderson, when we were using ring lights, introducing constant light to our photography, just incorporating all these crazy different ideas that helped us grow. And I know some people are going to watch this on YouTube and maybe not recognize him because we are missing kind of one half of what makes him special, and that would be his better half. But even though we're missing his better half, we still got the good looking half, or as I call it, or our own very own photography Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, with me today, my good, long, dear friend, Chris Gronde. Chris, how you doing,
Wow.
brother?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a while. I know we've been talking about it for a while and everything, but I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk to you. Yeah, it's been since 2015, man. It's
Oh
been
yeah.
over
And just
10
to let you know the
years.
credentials over the years, and let's see, what's cool about it is like we grew together. So like, let me just kind of list off some of his accolades to let you know who we have here, because we do have a hitter. We have a member of the Photography World Cup team, Team America, Team USA, 2024. He's also one of the final three finalists for season 2 for the oh my gosh, I'm just spacing out on the
Creator Series.
Creator Series. Thank you. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, wait, I
Creator
just
Series
forgot the
season
name of the show.
2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Creator Series. He was season 2 final 3 finalist. And it was one of those a coin flip. It came down to the very end, and it was but he put on a great showing and a great season, and literally showed his growth as a photographer. So we're very proud of him there, and just countless awards. But he's known as one half of the Grandes with his wife Brandy. Also, another part of about his story that is special to me is, like me, he is a veteran, U.S. Navy. I won't hold that against him because we know Army is the greatest of all time.
Hey, how'd that Army Navy
Yeah.
game happen this year?
Hey, you know what? NIL deals. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We didn't take the money. Army didn't pay the money. Navy did, because we know some of those guys are not are not fit to commission. You know it, and I know it. I'm kidding. Now it's always a good friendly rivalry when we bring up our veteran status and everything. But I mean, like me, we had a very similar journey into photography, coming from the military, work in the corporate worlds, and then just navigating photography part-time. Then it becomes full-time. Then it becomes a takeover in our lives. So um, let's just start from the beginning, Chris. When did you pick up that camera and just say, I want to do this crazy thing beyond taking pictures? Just I want to grow with this, and I want this to be a part of my life and start a business and bring in my wife. Like, I want to know from the very beginning, how did this start?
Yeah, so very beginning, I actually, somewhere floating around my social media, there's a picture of me at probably, I don't know, 10 years old, holding a Kodak 110 film camera that I was taking pictures of my brother's baseball game. My older brother was playing baseball and I was photographing that, and my mom had the wherewithal to take a picture of me taking a picture of the game, and it's probably, one of my favorite pictures that she's ever taken of me. So way back goes my interest in photography. And then when I met Brandy, when we were both in the Navy, stationed on a ship, before my first deployment, my mom had bought me, I think it was like a Kodak kind of point and shoot camera. And she was like, here, take this with you on deployment, all this. And it got stolen on the ship, or I lost it somewhere. I know exactly where I left it, and it walked away
Of
phantomly.
course.
And so I had met Brandy, and we had sort of started dating the way that, like, you can't really date in the military. But for my birthday, she had bought me a Nikon D60, which was my first DSLR camera. And then, started taking pictures in all the different countries we went to: Australia, Singapore, Japan, all the kind of Western Pacific countries that we hit in, when we're deploying. And then when we had gotten married, I told her, look, you can do whatever you want. You can plan every bit of this wedding. The one thing I want to do is pick the photographer. And because it was the one thing that was most important to me. And we went to a couple bridal shows, and there were, a couple really crazy, photographers that, because we were in Washington, D.C. at the time. So, there were guys who, they used to work for the Washington Post, and now they do photography, and they're $15,000 or whatever. And I got what I thought was the best photographer that we could get with our budget. And it ended up being a company that had multiple photographers. So the person I was talking to at the show was not the photographer I was going to go, but they had multiple portfolios, and I picked the portfolio that I liked the best. And she came to our wedding and photographed. And when it was time, we were the deal client for a wedding photographer. We cut out specific time, like this hour is going to be just portraits of us, and we had all these different times for photos. And we got to the venue and everything. It was time for photos, and she was like, okay, where do you guys, what do you guys want to do? Where do you guys want to go for your photos? And we're like, that's what I hired you for. Like there's a cool spot over there that we know of. And she's like, okay, this. And she's like, okay, you guys pose, and we're like, what in the world? Like, this is horrible. Like, okay, like, yeah, like, let's do this. It's like, you tell us what to do. And then during the reception, when her hours ended, she just left. She didn't come say bye. Hey, do you guys need anything else before I leave? Blah, blah, blah. She just left. We had no idea where she went. Her 8 hours were up, and she was like disappeared as a mist.
Peace.
So after that, I had gotten out of the military at the time. Brandy was still in, and I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do now that I was a real boy. And at that point, I was like, there's got to be a better way of doing it. This can't be the way that wedding photographers work. Like, it's horrible. And then it was Brandy's idea again to say, like, well, why don't you do it? Like, if you figure out what you want to do, like, why don't you open up a studio? So I opened Chris Gronde Photography, because my buddy, Matthew Weatherholt, shout out to him. He's the only guy that I knew that was doing this, and he was Matthew Weatherholt Photography. So I was like, well, I'm going to be Chris Gronde Photography. And I shot one wedding by myself. And I went to Brandy and I said, I can't do this by myself. You have to help. I need help. So she's like, okay, I will help you, but I'm not helping you as Chris Gronde Photography. So we hacked off the Chris, and our studio became Gronde Photography at that point. And she's been helping me ever since. I have my college degree in photography. So I went back to school, used my GI Bill for that. And she has 3 business degrees. So, she was always really good at composition and having an eye for photography, but she didn't know a lot of the technical things that I learned in college. So I helped her with a lot of the technical side of photography, and she helped me keep us in business and not spend all our money on
it's a match made in heaven. You can't go wrong
new
with that.
cameras and new lenses and stuff. So yeah, it was the perfect. But all that to say, husbands, listen to your wives. They know what they're talking about, but yeah, it's been a wild ride ever since. And yeah, it went from being part-time to, we moved from Washington, D.C. to Indianapolis, where we live now, and kind of started our whole business over again about 5 to 6 years in, and moved to the Midwest and kind of switched from doing almost 100% weddings to doing kind of 60 to 70% high school seniors now here. We still do weddings and headshots and things like that. But I think what we're known for and what we teach when we're at conferences is high school seniors. It's what we love doing the most. And kind of switched gears a little bit there. And we've been doing that ever since. And it's just, yeah. So it went from being part-time to being, when COVID hit, I went full-time telework with my company. So I got to do that for a couple of years. And then really, I was teleworking from the studio here and fell in love with that. And then when it was time for all of us to come back into the office, I was like, I don't know if I want to come back. So bit the bullet and quit that job. Went kind of part-time with it. And then finally just cut all ties with that. And for the past year, it's been full-time for me doing the studio. And it's been kind of nerve-wracking for the first 6 months. You're like, can I do this enough to cover what my other job was paying and everything. And there's
It's that
always the kind
guaranteed
of
money
fear.
effect. It's like, okay, I give this company 40 hours, they give me a paycheck. Do I really want to
Yeah.
like? It's that. It's almost like when you have that, and I think I've spoken on both sides of the coin. Where someone who's worked full time and ran the business full time, or doing both, I would say if you if you like your day job and it doesn't bother you with photography, you're in a good position. It's the perfect position to be in. If all you think about is photography and you're ready to leave the day job, then yeah, you have to take calculated risk. But while you're working, use that time to take bigger risk because you have nothing to lose. Versus when you all you have is photography, you have to be very meticulous and calculating with the risk that you do take because you don't know if it's going to lead to a drop in business or something that's going to affect you financially because of that. But when you have that day job, you can take those type of risks. Say, you know what, I'm going to try this workshop, or I'm going to try going to this shootout, or I'm going to try creating a YouTube channel or whatever. Because if it doesn't work out, I still have this day job that has given me money, and I can still keep booking and everything as a status quo, and I don't have to worry about like, oh, I need to book more work to make up for what I've lost. And in some cases, book things that I may not want to book. For years, I said I am in a very unique position to only take on the weddings under my brand, the weddings that I want to take on. Yeah, I still do a lot of contract work just simply because they pay a lot of money and something. But when I show up to those weddings, I'm like, wow, this is not a ideal client, but you know, I'm a photographer and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to knock this out. I don't have to worry about being connected to that client. But no, I totally get it when you leave the day job world and you're like, oh man, now I got to rely on my own vices to get us through the month. But then it's like you're a husband wife team, so you have that backup of each other too.
Yeah. And there's that balance of, there's still only 24 hours in a day,
Hmm.
so if you have that day job, the fact that I was able to kind of telework, I could still kind of answer emails here and there, and I could take phone calls where like, when I was in the office, it's like sometimes I could kind of go to the copy room and answer the phone or something, or I could text a client, here or there. But having that time was great. But at the same point, if you have that day job, you run the risk of using that as a clutch where if you have your slow time, like right now in the winter is kind of our slow time for the
Hmm.
for the
Same.
most part. um I mean, you're in Texas, there's no, it's literally snowing outside right now
No,
here.
but I mean, like, no one's getting married in mid
Yeah.
January. Yeah, so there's no wedding. So right now, for me, I'm planning for all my wedding shows right now for all the open houses at the venues. I got away from doing wedding shows. I just do venue shows now. So I've got 3 venue shows. I had more, but again, where you take calculated risks. Where last year I had 6, and then 3 of them went to these internal contract teams that they now hire, and
Yeah.
they outsourced the team to cover their photographer. So now they're offering packages that include photography. Well, it phased us out, and then you turn around and you lose. That's 3 venues, and then you do the math. If you're getting 4 to 7 weddings per venue, that's 12 to 21 weddings that you lose. That's a third of your work right there. 30% over because they moved to a internal contract team, or they said we still put you on our vendor list, but they now have a package where they offer photography, so people just see a one-stop package like, oh, I can get the venue, I can get catering, I can get photography in one price tag.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, are you willing to be that company that shoots for that venue for next to nothing? Or like you're getting paid an hourly rate, but then you still have to treat that client as if they're your internal client and they go through the whole process. It's like I couldn't do it, as a contracted vendor for that venue because I now have to treat this client and give them dedicate all these hours to them, but I'm not making any money off of it. I'm not making any sales. I'm not making like what I'm charging to my clients and everything that I'm charging them. Part of it is my experience and my expertise. And then this person's getting it at a discount. There's not, to me, it's not fair. That's why I said,
Yeah.
no, I couldn't do it. But when you lose it, you lose, and then you just got to pivot and go on to the next move and just double down on the ones that you do have and say, you know what, let me just book more weddings at this venue, you know, knock it out the park. But again, it's about taking calculated risk.
Yeah. So I mean, if
But
you have that.
it is a slow time though. I mean, like I said, I think my first wedding in Texas is next month in February. So which I'm okay with. I always expect to do a couple in December. January to kind of be an off month. If I get one, it's always a last minute or hey, can you fill in for me kind of thing. But or is somebody that just, they want to elope in January or start the year off, say, want to get married, let's just go ahead and do a quick weekend wedding or something. I'll get weddings like that, but just it's very rare where I have a planned wedding in January. And in February, usually right after New Year's or not Valentine's weekend, um, President's Day weekend, I usually that's my first wedding for the year. And then spring, before you know it, March is here, and March, April, May is springtime weddings, and that's usually where a chunk of my work comes in.
Yeah. So I mean, when you have that day job, a lot of people, when you have those slow times, they go, well, it's okay that I have this slow time because I still have my day job. So you lean back on it. But when you burn the ship, so to speak, and like the only way to go is forward, now I've been filling this slow time. We looked at our numbers last year and we had a record number with me doing this full time, the highest grossing, net profit that we've ever had. And when we looked at the numbers, we only worked 6 months out of the 12 months because here in Indiana last year, it literally rained from like February to May. So we didn't work at all because it literally rained every day. So now we're looking at it going, okay, well, our goal for 2026 now, if we only worked 6 months last year and we had record numbers, it's safe to say we could come close, if not more than double last year's numbers this year if we dedicate ourselves to making sure we have clients coming in every single month, whether it's slow season or not, because we have the studio. So we've started doing more commercial work, more kind of beauty and boudoir work in studio, specifically during our slow times, to have clients in every single month. So our goal is to at least have a couple clients every single month of the year this year and try to double last year's income, which I think is completely attainable. But if I had that other job, I'd be like, oh, it's February, like it's fine. I'm just going to focus on this job right now. I'll worry about, when senior season rolls around in kind of March, April, and we'll hit the ground running then. That's the kind of thing where you gotta, at some point, you just gotta burn the ship and go, is my advice. Like when you feel like you're ready to do it, you just got to do it. Like you can't, it's almost like, I mean, you got kids, I got kids. Like everyone's like, when do you feel ready to be a father? Like you're never going to feel ready to
You're
be a
never gonna
father.
be ready.
It's just going to happen one day and you just got to go with it. So it's
And in
kind of
some
the same
cases,
thing,
yeah, and I always say sometimes life would just do you the favor where, like,
right?
when I went full time, the first time I went full time, it was we were having Artemis, wife's pregnant. We started looking at the numbers. Oh, we have all these kids are going to be in daycare. Daycare is going to cost $2,000 a month. Well, if I'm the one that's usually paying daycare, how much am I like? By the time I pay daycare, I'm going to be left with like $400 for the month. So I'm going to work to pay for daycare. And on top of that, I really didn't like the job at the time. I was working for the bank, and it was just like, what are we doing? You see he doesn't like to work on Saturdays because he's a photographer. Like you hear the disdain in management's voice because they find out you're a photographer or you mention it. And also, quick tip, I was if you got a day job, don't tell people you're a photographer because only people that care about that you're a photographer are other photographers. Everyone else does not care.
Right.
So protect your sanity by not telling people what you're doing. Just move in silence. But that's
Yeah.
sidebar of that. But just looking at the numbers, I said, you know what? And then my wife wasn't comfortable with sending a newborn to daycare, so I said, why don't I just go full time as a photographer? I've got other hustles going on so I can still bring in some money. Photography doesn't work out, but we save the $2,000 and not have to pay for daycare for our children and everything. And on top of that, who better to watch our kids than ourselves? So they gave her peace of mind. I was a stay-at-home dad. I was doing all the daddy daycare stuff and running the business full time. I said, well, I put myself up against the wall. Hey, there's no way I can only go forward. And it worked out because it was like the beginning. And I did that for years until I finally went back to essentially force my wife to go back to school because I know she went to go back to school and focus on getting her second bachelor's or master's and PhD and all that, which she's currently doing. But I said, you know what, when I went back to work, it was when the kids aged out of daycare and we only had to pay for one kid at that point. And even when I went back to the corporate world, it was still that same attitude of, oh, if you have something beyond this job, we're not going to support it. We're not going to like it. So I just learned keep to yourself, whatever. And I did that for years until 2025 when lo and behold, the company took it upon themselves to say, hey, you know what? We don't feel like you're 100% all in with the company. We're gonna let you go. We can only keep so many people. We want to keep the people that want to be here. When you have your own hustle, they always say, if you got your own job on the
Yeah.
side or you're doing stuff on the side, you must not want to be here. It's like, which is not the case, but let them have their opinion. You can fight for it, or hey, keep going all in. And I remember the day
Right.
I left Schwab, I was like, okay, well, the day they fired me, I was literally walking to my car booking a wedding because I had been the whole time back and forth with this bride, just text messaging and emails and answering questions. As I'm walking the car, it's like, yeah, we want to go ahead and move forward with you. I was like, okay, done. I'm on walking on my 17 hats app before I even got to the car, sending her a contract, getting in the car. Then I was like, oh, by the way, babe, call my wife. She's like, hey, what's up? I was like, I'll just let you know I got fired. We're okay that I just booked a wedding. So it's like kind of funny at the same time. I'm getting a
Yeah.
invoice paid, getting fired, and getting invoice paid. So it's like, yeah, it is what it is. But I tell people, life can choose it for you. You could choose yourself, but ultimately, you know, does it? Some people have that fear of being on their own, and I get it. It's a scary feeling, and sometimes maybe just finding the right company to work for. If you just need to have that job to give you that peace of mind, I would say take less money from a company and do what you love doing, and be with a company that's
Yeah.
going to support you on, whether it's for me, wedding photography, it's on the weekend. If I'm not working on the weekend, why do you care what I'm doing? Whether I'm at a wedding, a football game, kids, sporting events, whatever, it's my business. So why do you care?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, let's not get it twisted. I didn't have a McDonald's job. I had a
Yeah.
6-figure government job
Yeah.
that I
Yeah. I
gave
mean, I
up.
was in
And
corporate America. Yeah.
I'm so much happier doing this and not having that income. That job was just sucking the soul out of me.
Oh yeah.
I was doing it because I was good at it and it paid the money, not because I enjoyed doing it. I'm 1000% happy to not be there anymore.
Yeah. And I always say, but like, you use your day job to just you know better your hustle. If you're starting in photography, or if you've been in photography, man, use your day job to pay your bills and everything. But then just even if you got photography, you say, oh, it's a slow month, man, get to a point where you're not having those slow months. You're taking those calculated risks, and you're getting better as a photographer. You're taking the right workshops or the right conferences to work on your skill set. You're learning how to do things to run your business a lot better and more efficiently. Because if you have 8 hours a day taken away from you, or really, that's not even 8 hours. If you have 10 hours, because you got to think about your
Yeah.
commute times and all that
Drive
stuff,
and yep.
the drive, all that stuff, the post work stuff you got to do, and then trying to take a workout for yourself. So let's say half your day is gone because when you think about getting ready for work, working out, cooking dinner, trying to eat dinner with your family, breakfast, whatever, dinner, and then the 8 hour workday itself, 10 to 12 hours is already gone. How can you run your business in 3 hours out of the 24 hours? So it's like having those systems in place and learning how to do all that. That's the time to learn all that. Not after you've lost the job, or you've quit the job, or you've walked out the job, and then say, oh, maybe I should get a 17 hats or honey book or whatever to run my day-to-day stuff. Like, no, like, you should have been practicing that now when you had that extra money.
Yeah.
Buy those things, go through those memberships, learn how to do all those things. Because like I said, it wasn't, again, I got fired. I didn't say, oh, let me run to a coffee shop, get in front of the laptop and figure out how to do an invoice and your contract. Like, no, I had all
Yeah.
that templated because, I've been having these things in place for years. So, I mean, as a business set, even if you have a day job or don't have a day job, learn to run your business first and foremost. That's what's going to be the key to success versus, just taking awesome ass pictures and calling it a day,
Yeah. 100%. Like, run your business. Even if you have a day job right now and your goal is to be full time, run your business as if you're a full time photographer. And then
Absolutely.
whenever you become full time, like, I knew as soon as we went full time, I knew exactly what I needed to do because it was the stuff I was already doing. It's just suddenly I had way more time on my calendar.
And I remember when I used to feel bad about, like, oh, I'm not full time right now, and people are gonna have their opinion because it's like, oh, you're only a photographer if you're full time and you only do photography. And I just remember, like, Melanie being the person to say to me, take away your day job, how much do you make as a photographer? And then I told her, I said, this is what I made last year, is just in just photography alone. And she's like, okay. And she says, how about show of hands, how many are making more than what? Then she yells out the number to me, or in front of everybody. And I was like, she was, I think it was at that time I said, like, I was making 52K. I said, I made 52K last year. That's what I made. She's like, okay, how many are making over $50,000 as a photographer right now? And or now she says, by show of hands, how many y'all are full time? So they raise their hands. Okay, those y'all that raise your hands, how many y'all as full time photographer are making more than 50 grand? And over half the hands went down. So she was like, you're doing just fine. She was like, so separate like what your day job is. What do you do as as your photographer entity? A lot of people have day jobs and don't realize they're still making more money as a photographer with a day job than the people that are doing it full time. So really, it comes down to your mentality and your definition. Like, yeah, you may have a day job, but if you're making 75 grand, that's still a lot more than most people are making.
Right.
And shockingly, when you start, but see, people, if you're forward thinking, you're like, man, I want to just be a six-figure photographer. That's great. That's a great goal to have. But start with the basics. Okay, do you make enough money to beat your day job? And then after that, do you make enough money to double what you made as a day job? Because again, I didn't know how good or how much I was making until we ran numbers the first time when I was a high school teacher. And then I realized my first year in business, I matched my income. So it was like, oh wow, I made 35 grand. Well, I made 35 grand as a teacher. And then the next year, when the year I quit teaching, I was slated to make more because I was already like, oh, I'm going to make 41 grand. And I'm begging the principal, hey, put me in this higher pay bracket because I have a kid now. We just adopted our daughter. I need to, I need to be in a position to make more money. And they're like, we can't do it. We're not bumping you up into a higher pay bracket. And you're like, and that's when you hit them with that. I can make more money as a photographer than I can being here. And they're like, oh, well, and they just don't believe it because again, they're focused on that track versus not realizing there's so many avenues to make money. They think, oh, you're making that much shooting portraits. Like, no, I shoot weddings. I'm doing weddings. I'm doing a little bit of everything, but it all adds up. Even when I was doing $100, portraits because I didn't know any better. In my head, I'm like, all right, let me get 10 of these this week, and then boom, and then the original shoot and burn. Edit all the pictures in Lightroom and Photoshop and burn it onto a DVD, send it to them, and those were the days, though. Again,
Yeah.
but it's like think about the journey, man. 10 years ago, like when how different it was 10 years ago when we first met at Shutterfest to now. Fast forward to how we streamlined it, man. So let's talk. Let's pivot on this conversation about the growth, man. Like, when you were coming up, did you ever like envision where you're at today versus 2015 versus the 2026 version of you? Like I always say, be forward thinking and chase who you're going to be in the future. But man, in your dreams, did you see yourself, six-figure studio, husband and wife team, power couple, photography World Cup? Just, I mean, all these things that we aspired when we were coming up before we got the proper guidance and we started coming up. Did you envision all this, or where were you at then?
I want to say yes. I want to say at some point I had this like great vision of like what things would be. I remember walking into the expo floor at Shutterfest for the first time and looking up at the banners. My banners are hung in our studio now on the wall. When we moved into this studio, our old studio had 8-foot ceilings and the banners are like 10 feet tall. So there was nowhere for me to put it. And then we now have 20-foot ceilings. So now there's a spot over here that we can hang our banners up from. But I remember the first time looking up at those banners going, oh my gosh, those people, like I aspire to be those people. And definitely 2, 3, I mean, it'll be 3 years ago now was the first time speaking at Shutterfest and seeing our banner up there. And I like literally just almost in tears, just seeing our picture up there like that. But, and when World Cup happened in 2024, I remember getting the email from PPA, like, hey, like we're considering one of your images to be part of the World Photographic Top Team USA. And I literally was like, hey, you guys have the wrong email. Like you're definitely not talking to me, because guys like Michael Anthony, Michael Anthony's been on World Cup, and I look at Michael Anthony, I'm like, well, of course Michael Anthony's on World Cup, look at him. And then when I made it, I just, my imposter syndrome comes in all the time. So I definitely, and it was crazy. And I thought like, oh, what a great honor to be on the team. And then when, we went out to every year they go to different countries. I think this year they're going to Iceland. Our year was in Texas. So I was like, oh, of course, the one year that we're,
really?
The finals. I remember being at PPA when they announced finalists, and Carolina, sweet Carolina. I love her so much from Creator Series. She is my sister. But she was there to like capture my reaction, which I think is on our TikTok somewhere, of her video of me when they announced our name as finalist, and then going out to Texas and seeing and winning the bronze medal, and like thinking like, okay, that like for wedding photojournalism for this year, I am the number 3 wedding photojournalist in the world. I think we got beat by someone from like, I think first place went to Portugal maybe, and second place went to like a photographer from the Czech Republic maybe, and then me. And it's crazy to think that like in the world is something that I never thought would come out of my mouth as far as our studio and things like that. So it's been wild. Like all I ever really wanted to do was to say I am a professional photographer and this is my job and this is what I get to do. So, I never take for granted, even if I'm never like the biggest photographer, I'm trying to think of who's the biggest name I could think of in photography. Whatever that is, whoever you're, Jerry Gionis,
Yeah.
um, whoever that might be to you. I never wanted to be that person. I just wanted to say, when someone says, "Hey, what do you do?" I just wanted to say, I am a photographer, period. So every day that I continue to be able to say I am a photographer is the greatest day to me, and everything else is kind of a bonus. And we've been in business for 15 years, almost 16 now, and we've only been part of the teaching community for 3 years. I kept my mouth shut for 8 years or longer before I ever decided, hey, I actually have something to add to the community and kind of give back and teach. And a lot of that is not teaching my successes, but teaching where we failed along the way, and tell people why that failed and how we pivoted from that and got over our failures, and also how we learned to not be afraid to fail and try things and have ideas that, oh, what if it doesn't work? Like, okay, well, what did we learn from it? Whether that's a marketing campaign or, moving into a studio, or moving from doing seniors to adding beauty, anything that we've tried, like, what if it fails? What will people think if, of me, if, going out and applying to speak? Oh, well, what if I apply to speak and I fail? We applied to Shutterfest 3 times, I think, 3 or 4 maybe times before we ever got accepted to speak. That's something, I could have applied to speak. I'm ready to be a speaker. I'm famous now, or I want to, I think I deserve to have this, and to, be denied and then go, well, screw this conference. I'm going to go, whatever ego tells you to do. We're like, okay, well, why did we get accepted? Was it me? Was it my portfolio? Was it the topic that maybe there was another photographer who's more established who was teaching the same exact topic as me. Or maybe I need to look at the conference and say, where are the holes that I can, what are people not teaching at that needs to be taught?
Oh yeah.
And things like that. So just kind of learning from those things. But it's definitely been a wild ride. It's been a roller coaster over, 15 years of, I remember getting the key to our first studio that was 600 square feet, and, just thinking that was the greatest thing ever. And to finally have a brick and mortar studio, which doesn't have to be a goal for everyone, but it was a goal for me. I wanted to have my name on, over a door. And really, to me, that is what made me a business, was having an actual brick and mortar studio, rather than, we had a formal dining room in our house that, who has a formal dining room anymore? We had another dining room off our kitchen. What do I need this dining room in the front of our house? So that was our IPS space. And we sometimes would move the furniture out of the way, and we would do headshots in this one room of our house. And that was our studio when we first moved here to Indianapolis. And that was great. I remember 12 years ago doing wedding consults in a Starbucks and things like that. So but my goal was to have a studio with my name over the door, and really be able to walk into the Chamber of Commerce and look at these other business owners that had physical businesses, and be like, you and me are the same, even though I'm a photographer and you own a pizza shop or a clothing store, or you work at the bank. I am no different than you as a business owner, just because I'm a photographer. And, you have the people that are like, oh, that's cute. My sister has a camera too. And she takes pictures of caterpillars, and you're just like her. And like, no, man, I'm a 6-figure studio. Like, I make money doing this. This is my job. I have 3 children that I provide with this income that I have. And to be fully transparent, there were times where even my own father, I would go in Thanksgiving, and he'd be like, oh, how's your little photo thing doing? You're like,
Oh man,
Dad,
the
dude,
little as soon as you get the little photography, or how's your little
I'm
business?
number
She's like,
3 wedding photographer in the world, Dad. I was on TV. I was on the Creator Series. How dare you? Your
I
little
just
ego
built a
starts
house.
it
It's
starts
doing
kicking you in the head.
fine.
But it's just one of those things, the photography community, everyone's a photographer nowadays. There's, you go to Facebook, and you go to everyone has a town Facebook group, I'm looking for a senior photographer, and there's 187 comments of people, and I start clicking. I'm like, who are these people? Like, where are you located? I've
It
never
just
heard of
it
these
boggles the
people.
mind. Yeah, we're going. It's time to start ranting on this stuff because
Yeah.
there's a lot of
I'm
fun
gonna
topics
get
right
you
now that we
going.
can
I'm
hit
rage
rants on.
baiting
So
you
yeah,
now.
yeah. Oh yeah, you rage baiting me on. But it's so funny because I've said it for years. Photography is the only industry where the barrier to entry is so little to none, and it's been so diminished to where it's almost like they cheapened it to where you say I'm a photographer. It's like, well, yeah, anybody with a camera is a photographer, but it's like you don't see like someone says I got a checking account. I'm practically an investor. No, you're not. You just have a checking account. It's like every other industry gets defended except ours. For the life of me, can't figure it out. It's like, oh, I have a barbecue grill. I'm pretty much a pit master. No, you're not. You just cook some stuff on your barbecue grill. You're not a catering company. You don't. You shouldn't have. You don't have a restaurant. You're not even gonna go cook. It's like no one's defending all that. But then with like photography, it's always like, oh, well, these people went out and bought a camera. They're photographers. No, they're not. They still got a lot to learn, whatever. And it's the only place where like you could literally fail your way to success because you sucked in the beginning and still kept getting work because everybody has a cheap price tag and you know how to maneuver and trick your way into like making people think you're better than and it's no being real here. Like I wasn't great when I first started, and sometimes I jokingly say I'm still not great. I'm still learning and still always trying to get better.
Mhm.
But you know, you do that one workshop or you do that one photo shoot that was, fire because you had great models or something. Now everyone thinks, oh wow, you really are good. And then you get in front of your actual clients, you're like, oh, I can't repeat what I just did because at Style Shoots of America, that couple did all the posing for me. I just took pictures and got lucky, but I didn't learn how to like, as you grow, you like, I gotta be intentional. How do I recreate these things? How do I get better? How do I pose them in a way that complements them and, allows you to become one of the number three wedding photojournalist in the world, or just book 22 weddings every year consistently because you've been able to consistently tell a story in a way that's unique to the couple but still appealing to the public. So it's like all these different checks and balances that you get, but yet anybody can go to Best Buy or Adorama or B&H or wherever and buy a camera. Now they're called a photographer, even though they've, never had a successful year, even though they've never gone through the paces or, you know, even before we jumped on cameras. And they used to say, if you didn't go to school for it, you can't call yourself a photographer. And I used to hear that from people say, well, I'm a real photographer because I went to school and I've got a degree in it. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
and in my head, I'm like, I need to go to that school in California that's online. Or I need to go to New York Institute of Photography, take the online courses so I can get the certificate so I can call myself a professional photographer. And then it was like, no, just let me just keep putting out amazing work and then let
Yeah.
that speak. But again, even now today is if you have, oh, anyone with iPhone's a photographer. No, they're not. They're just a person with an iPhone. Like, but again, we have to deal with it. It comes with the territory.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
And
one of those things, like, at what point, what makes, there's so many industries. If you're a doctor, what makes you a doctor? What makes you a
yeah,
lawyer? Like, oh, you passed the bar, you're now a lawyer. Like, you graduated,
and it's just like
medical
I wish
school,
like
you're now a
it's just
doctor.
I guess the mindset has like when I Facebook, I use a prime example. When someone says looking for a wedding photographer and my budget is $1,500 and they get 100 comments, it's like, could you imagine if I went there and say my right knee is killing me, looking for a good orthopedic surgeon, my budget is
Yeah.
seventy
Yeah.
five dollars. A bunch of
Yeah.
like, oh, I can work on your knee. I'm a physical therapist. I got 20 years in the game. I'll give you 18
Right.
physical therapy sessions and a cold plunge on top of that. If whatever, I'm running like no. So it's like, how is it's okay for people to do that in our industry to us, but then it's like, could you imagine if we just did that to everyone else? Like, okay, like I'm hungry, I want dinner. Who's going to give me the best deal on dinner tonight? Oh, come to my restaurant, we'll give you half off. It's like, oh, we'll give you half off plus dessert and free drinks, for the life. And if you don't like it, we'll give
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
another. Like you don't see restaurants doing that to us. You don't see like anything you want in
But
this world.
not even restaurants. Imagine if you're like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm looking for a pizza place. Who's got the best pizza place? And some guy's like, dude, I'm making DiGiorno in my kitchen right now. Like, I'll sell you a DiGiorno pizza, right? Like,
exactly.
are you gonna go if someone's like, oh, I open up this new restaurant, it's in my garage, and you're like, are
Yeah,
you going to that restaurant? Like, but
and it's like
so again, I'm absolutely not digging on any photographer out there who's doing it part time or who doesn't have a
yeah,
studio or you're working out of your home. I remember being there.
yeah.
You
We were all there,
100%
and some of us are still
can
there. But
be that.
but it's
Yeah, yeah.
like, but it's that value, diminished value, is what I'm preaching about or that I go on these rants about because it's like you literally like I'm looking at like what gets me most recently, and I just said, I put why even bother as a comment, and somebody got so mad at me for saying that. And I said, look, I wasn't trying to bait you or get you upset, but it's like the girl literally said, looking for a photographer and videographer for my upcoming wedding. It's in May, so it's this year. So it's here we are. It's in May. It's turned that, which means we're 4 months away from your wedding. You put out your search for your photography and videography. Me personally, I would have done it a year, almost a year, 6 months ago at least, because when to plan for that year. But she puts it in there. She puts her budget. She put a 2K budget, and then she said 10-hour day, $2,000, one photo video. And the fact that she got almost 200 comments in response, I just was like, I just put said in the thing, why do
Yeah.
I even bother anymore? Like trying to, because it's like it's the same. The word I'm not mixing up my words here. I see the same results every time. I'm not knocking the person for taking the job and trying to put money in their pocket, but it's like when you break down the numbers, what money do you actually take home? Number one. Number two, we hear the same story all the time. I provide this bride with photo and video. We did this, whatever, and she was a bridezilla. She was this, she was that. And it's like, yo, we told you that it's a mile away. There's a red flag on it. The fact that they want so much for nothing. I said that's the same person that's like, I want. We talk. Pizza's a prime example. Oh, we went to we went to Little Caesars and got a $5 pizza. It was not good. It was a $5 pizza. What'd you expect? So it's like, if you tell me like, oh, we got a photographer and videographer for my wedding for under $2,000, in my head I immediately, I'm not trying to, because I know there's some talented people out there that don't know what to charge, but in my head 90% of the time I'm like, oh, it sucked. Probably your video probably sucked, your pictures probably sucked, it was probably a bad experience. Every once in a while I'm surprised and they say, oh, no, this was a great experience, and I see them like, wow, they did all that, and in my head I'm like, give me the information, not because I want to yell at them for charging so low, but shit, come work for me. Let me bring you on as an associate. You'll make more money working for me, apparently, because shit,
Right.
the money
Yeah.
you took home after that wedding, there's no way you took home any money, because you can't do photo and wedding simultaneously. And those people that say they can film a wedding and photograph a wedding at the same time, they're full of
I
shit,
know
because
them. I know them. They're out
it's
there.
too hard. It's too hard. You're gonna
Yeah.
miss something. You're gonna mess up somewhere. It's you can't be two places at once. Number one. Number
Yeah.
two, it's like you pay an associate or whatever to cover the other half of what you're not covering. By the time you take home money, you're taking home less than $1,000, dude. Go work at Starbucks if that's the case. Go work, go give your, because then you think about the 20 hours you spent with your client cultivating their wedding, answering questions, post wedding, pre wedding. This you're giving them at least 20 hours. Then the day of the wedding, you gave them 10-hour day, so that's 30 hours right there easily. So you gave them between 30 and 40 hours of your time, and you took home less than $1,000 when you really break down the numbers, you
But
know.
not, I
And
mean,
when
again, that's a service that you're providing, that there are photographers out there who do not provide that service. They
yeah,
don't they show up on the wedding day to
yeah,
photograph because they made
sight
800
unseen or
bucks to
whatever.
photograph it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they show up on site, they photograph, they leave, here's a Dropbox of your folders, or
yeah.
here's your Pixie set gallery, or whatever, and they move on
Whatever
to
we're
the next.
using these days.
And honestly, to be honest, there's a market for that. If you're just going to
Yeah,
be a high volume, if you want to shoot 200 weddings a year and you show up on day of, you have a morning wedding and you have an evening wedding, and you show up and you throw them into a, AI color correction program, and then spit them out and send them off to the client, and you make 800 bucks off that. Like, there's a market for that. You can do that. You just crank them out, At the same point, though, and this can get into the kind of elephant that's existing in the community right now. Those are the photographers that AI is might replace you if you're just kind of a commodity photographer and you're not providing an experience, you're not providing any service, and you're just taking a picture and giving a picture. That's where things like AI headshots and AI Christmas cards and
speaking
AI this
speaking of
and the other
AI
thing.
and controversy and elephants in the room, let's just dive right into it. So we're coming off of Imaging USA, and I always say there are top three conferences. There are three conferences every year that kind of will, if you pick one of the three, you're gonna, it's a good foundation, and that is Imaging, WPPI, and then my personal favorite, Shutterfest. Those are like my three. Like I say, if you do one of those three and then you add another one, you're gonna have a good year of education, business, photography, whatever. Obviously, my number four, well, really my top three is Shutterfest Boca Summit, and then
Okay, yep.
I like the WPPI just because I like going to Vegas. But I mean, as far as like if I had to compare apples and oranges education with it. Sometimes I think it just depends on which year. Imaging and WPP are always, one of them edges each other out, so it's always a kind of depending on. So there's like one year where when WPPI lost their luster and didn't have their shit together, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna have it here," but then there's no host hotel, so everyone's scattered. That year wasn't great, but then when they got back to having everything in one hotel, one area, it started going back in the right direction. Imaging's been keeping it at the same hotel, same each year, giving you opportunities. So for a couple of years, imaging was edging them out, and then it comes down to quality of educators. I can go on and on about that, but I always say, if you're new into the industry, imaging, WPPI, Shutterfest, those are the three, and then add on some local stuff, whatever, whether it's Boca, whether it's a Texas school if you're local to Texas, or just your local PPA guilds, local chapters, stuff like that. That's always a good thing to round out your education space. But we just came off of Imaging USA. Evoto made an announcement about AI
You said the
headshots.
magic word. You
I
said
said
the
I'm gonna go
secret
ahead and say the
word.
name. Everybody's like, I can't believe you're gonna say. I'll say it on my show, and I mean they're not a sponsor, so now I will be fully transparent. Have I ever used Evoto before? Yes, I use it all the time for my editing. I use it for my signature editing to clean up stuff. Whenever I have clients that order prints, I run it through Evoto. I clean up anything else before we lay it onto a big print because I want that picture to be pristine and perfect. So when a client orders prints, that's why I don't automate my ordering for a reason, specifically because I want to make sure that, especially if they're going to spend $600, $700, $800 on prints or a wall art, I want to make sure that, we cleaned up a little bit. We cleaned up the gray hair, we cleaned up the straight hair, we cleaned all that up. And the reason I don't do that initially in the beginning, because I'm not going to go through 850 wedding pictures and remove straight hairs. When if she doesn't order anything, then I did all that for no reason. But the point I'm making is I use Evoto. I thought it was still think it's one of the best editing softwares out there. Is editing AI. Yes, did it take away from me having a physical editor and save me money? Absolutely, it did. Do I feel bad about it? No, because I paid the editor to take work off my plate. When I introduced Evoto, it put the work back on my plate. It wasn't like we got Evoto and had my editor using Evoto. I got to see, oh, I can still edit it a faster way. It streamlines and it doesn't take away my time. So yeah, I lost my editor when I incorporated Evoto, but also at the same time, when I was paying it before I found out about Evoto, he was using Evoto to edit my pictures with, so he was paying me for something I could have done myself. That's why I said, nah, let me figure this out. Did one little quick workshop with one of the editors, and it was like a 30-minute thing. He showed me everything, the basic stuff, and I was like, I'm blown away. And like, how does this work again? Cost effective. I'm saving hundreds of dollars. I don't have to pay my editor, $200 per wedding to edit that wedding for me because I'm busy, because I had a day job. Keep in mind. So again, this is where you trade time for money and all that good stuff. But so I've been using Evoto for about 2 years, and I'm not gonna say OG member, but I definitely was when they came out and they rebranded to Evoto.ai. I was like, okay, cool, I'm on it. Let's use it. Fast forward this week, and I remember going to bed. Was it Sunday? Was it when it happened? Sunday? No, it was Monday night. So Monday night, it was it Monday? Yeah, it was Monday. Go to bed. I got dinner. Go to bed Monday. Woke up middle of the night Monday going into Tuesday. Woke up because I couldn't sleep because I'm at a hotel. I'm not at home. Insomnia wakes up, see all the messages. Oh, what the hell's going on? Why are my little groups just like got all these notification pings and all this stuff, and my group chats are out of control? And then I see the announcement and I go, what the fuck did I just read? And I was like, head. So then me being me, I was like, wait, let me go to the show list because I know they had educators. I immediately went to who was speaking on Tuesday after this, and when I saw your name, I was like, damn, I know Chris. Chris is pissed. But then I saw next, I said Peter Hurley. I said, wait a minute, you guys just announced an AI headshot tool, and the person that you have speaking at your booth the next day is Peter Hurley, who is known for headshots. I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be fucking hilarious right now. Like,
Yeah.
are they serious right now? And then I start reading the comments, and it was just like the storm came in. Your thought? I guess I'll just ask you, what are your thoughts on everything that's transpired in the past like 72 hours? From
So
when we
again,
recorded to when
you're
this
absolutely
happened.
correct. Peter Hurley talked on Monday, so he had already talked before this
Okay.
kind of came out. Me and Joey Wright were talking on Tuesday, and I was talking right at 11:30 when the expo opened. So doors open, I'm supposed to be talking. I will say again, I'm not like an Evoto ambassador. I've done content for them. They've sponsored some of my YouTube videos. I've done some reviews for them. And they, they flew me out to Imaging to work in their booth and talk to people just as a user of it, and do demos and then talk in the booth on Tuesday. And then the announcement came out, or it wasn't even an announcement. It was more of a leak. I don't even want to call it a leak because it's not like someone found secret files. This was a website that was out there that had Evoto's name on it, that they, that had an AI headshot generator. And I was very close talking with the whole US marketing team was out there, and I was talking to them. And I fully believe that the US team found out in real time with the rest of us. This was something that happened at headquarters in Singapore, and they did not tell the US team that this was coming. They were blindsided with the rest of us. If you could have seen their faces when I saw their faces, it looked like someone kicked their dog. And they put out that first kind of notice on their Facebook page, not really apologizing, but trying to explain it as best they could from what they knew. And they fully understood that first notice was not very good, and it's why they put out a second kind of more of an apology for what happened and kind of explanation and telling you, hey, we've mothballed this. It's on the shelf. It's never coming back out. They're saying that they're never going to do generative AI stuff again. From my perspective, for the first 2 days, I had been doing demos and talking to new users and telling them that my favorite thing about Evoto was that it is AI assistive, not AI generative.
Yeah.
So I felt when this came out,
putting a new face on my client. We're removing.
This is still my photo. It's the same things I would do. Yeah, it's the same things I do in Photoshop. It's just I'm doing it with a slider rather than doing it by hand.
It takes less time. It's like when you're not good, like when you're like me, I'm not good at Photoshop. Do I know how to use it? Yes. It takes me a long time to do certain things. That's why I use Evoto, because what took me 10 minutes per image on Photoshop now takes me 60 seconds, the 90 seconds on per image. So it's like, again, the amount of work I can get done. If I was like, okay, let me take these 10 pictures for sneak peeks, let me do those real quick, run that as I set up my reel or something like that. Boom, do those 10 pictures, 10 minutes. I've got 10 pictures done, versus like if I go take them to Photoshop, that's going to be an hour, because I'm, again, it assisted me,
Yeah.
Do I know?
I've been telling new new people who are wanting to sign up for Evoto. That's what I was telling them. So when this came out that now they have a generative headshot tool, I felt like I just spent the last 2 days lying to people and I didn't know. And I never want to be, if I have a sponsor or I'm doing a review, I never want to put things out just because I'm being paid, or I never want to mislead anyone. So I felt like I'd been misleading people if this is really the direction that Evoto was going. And then on the FAQ of this website, it specifically said, this tool is meant to be cheaper and faster than professional photographers. And that really hit me hard, the wrong way. Again, had the US team, I don't want to speculate, but I hope that had the US team seen this website, they would have been like, absolutely not, do not put that there. And I still feel like they haven't addressed that part of the whole thing to begin with. And I hope moving forward, and if I, as I continue to talk with the US marketing team, I want to express to them that they really need to fix their messaging and hammer home that they are here for professional photographers and they support us, and they absolutely 100% are not trying to replace us. So I did not talk on Tuesday. I told them that morning that, hey guys, I'm not feeling comfortable about this. The last thing I want is to go up to speak and have every question be about that tool and not about what I'm talking about, or have someone specifically come up to me and tell me, you told me yesterday that this is assistive and now they have a generative AI tool. You're lying to me. So I needed a chance to be level-headed, not make a knee-jerk reaction and completely cut ties with Evoto, but give them a chance to explain what happened. The first thing I said to them that was morning was, did you know about this? And they all were like, absolutely not. Like, we had no idea.
Yep.
This was sprung on us just like you guys. So that immediately, like, I kind of like, okay, now let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about how do we move forward. Is this coming? Is this really happening? The other thing that I mentioned, I'm in the booth, I'm talking to them, and they're, Ryan, who's one of the US team guys, had been like, this rumor's out that we're using clients' images, and we don't use everyone's images. We have specific people that we have contracts with and NDAs with, that if we're training a model, they are specifically giving us models for that. And if you've ever worked in AI, I worked in my government day job was IT. So I know how these AI models work. They're not just absorbing everything. They're garbage in, garbage out. So they're being very specific. If they have a generative AI headshot tool, there are headshot photographers who are giving them headshots to train their models. So don't be mad at Avoto. Be mad at whoever those headshot photographers are who are selling out the community to make money off licensing their photos to train models. That's who you need to be mad at. But at the same point, so talk to him. But I said in the settings of Avoto, there's a little checkbox that says, one says, I give consent for usage data, just like everything else. Facebook does it. If you play a video game, Windows asks you, can we copy your usage data and things like that. You can turn that off. There's also another one that says, we give you consent to use our content to improve products and also product development. That product development part is the thing that I think people are concerned about. I told them as well, I'm concerned about it. And a guy from the product team was there, and he's like, that is specific to, if we're using content in Avoto Desktop, it is to improve Avoto Desktop, not do further development of Avoto Desktop, not to use it for other tools. But again, it doesn't say that. So you have to prove that to me somehow. And that checkbox is marked by default. And the product guy was like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. Check every computer in the booth. I'm going to tell you that checkbox is checked in every single one of them. And they walked around and did. And product team immediately got on the phone with the product team back in Singapore. And my hope is that they do a software push, whatever the next software push is, that they will default that to being off for everyone. And then if you want to give consent, you have to check that box. So if you're watching this, go into your Avoto and turn that off if you have those privacy concerns. With that, I'm not mad at Avoto. I'm still going to use Avoto. Like we've been talking about, it's the best tool out there. And I still have an editor. I still use Evolve Edits for a lot of my client work. Most of my client work I send to Evolve Edits. If I have personal work that I'm doing here, if I'm making content for YouTube, if I'm doing stuff just for social media, I will edit that in Avoto myself. But all of my client work, I still send to an editor. So I don't feel bad about using Avoto because I haven't replaced an editor. But if you moved from using an editor to using Avoto, you didn't have an issue with taking money away from your retoucher. And I was talking to someone else and was saying, if you're a photographer and you're out there and you're mad about, Avoto, possibly replacing, or even just putting that word in there that it's cheaper and better, not better, but cheaper and faster than a photographer. And, that rubs you the wrong way, and it should. But you're also a photographer who was doing that stupid sequin Christmas photo prompt that the entire internet was doing, where everyone's holding candy canes and wearing sequin onesies and whatnot. And you're a photographer and you were posting that image. You don't think that if you think that tool is going to come after headshots, you don't think other tools are going to come after, your precious Christmas minis for Christmas cards that you do every December? Why, as a photographer, are you posting these AI Christmas images of your saying, look how good this looks. I can use this on my Christmas card. What are you doing? You're being a hypocrite right now. Yep. So.
But the point I was making when I came, I said it starts with headshots. I said, but what if it can grow to where, send us a selfie family picture, or send us a couple's family picture, and then now they're doing AI generated portraits, then it goes to portrait, or take a picture of a team. Oh, make me look like a awesome football player. Now you're losing. Now I don't need to get hire or the team sports photographer to do my football pictures or cheerleading pictures or basketball pictures because Evoto replaces. Like I said, that's where I always say that's where the fear kicks in, is if they can get to the point where somebody can take a selfie and you give them a professional headshot and it looks legit. What's stopping it from doing the family portraits, the senior portraits, the portrait? Now, I don't see them saying, "Okay, give me a selfie of a couple, and then we'll make them a badass wedding picture," full gown and all that stuff. Because, do I think it could do that? Yeah, you could probably create an image, but I still don't think I would be replaced as a wedding photographer. But I do think it did take a hit for some of the side work that we do outside of like our bread and butter.
But
But for
so
people that are
this is
specifically
where what
headshot photographers, I felt like it was a big hit against them for sure. You
but
know.
what started this conversation and talking about this, going back to all you do is give them a picture. This is where the experience that you provide, the expression that you're able to bring out is a real expression. That the clothes that they're wearing are AI clothes. The smile on their face is an AI smile. They're, everyone hates the Polar Express movie because they have those weird, creepy eyes throughout the whole movie. Now, again, these AI things are going to get better and better and better, but it's still not their
The human
expression. It's a
connection.
fake expression. Yeah. Our seniors, again, we shoot seniors, and our seniors want less and less and less and less editing because they want authenticity. Because these everyone's posting AI photos on Facebook. So when they want their senior portraits, they almost don't want any editing at all. They want to leave their acne in, which blows my mind. But they want to be authentic. So us as photographers, the more we can provide an authentic experience and let them know, like, you want to remember who you are, not what some computer thinks you look like. And I don't want to look at, they're fun, but I don't think anyone wants a family portrait over their fireplace, the big portraits. They'll post it on their Facebook. If you're a photographer, all you do is give digitals so that people can put them on their Facebook page, you might get replaced. But if you're doing artwork, if you're doing albums, nobody wants an album full of AI photos. They just don't. It's just not going to happen. So even headshot photographers, an actor who this is who they are, and what they look like is important. They're not using. Peter Hurley is not being replaced by AI. If your headshot is $50 and they're using it for a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch image on their Microsoft Teams, sure. But if this is going up on a billboard, I don't think people are going to use AI for that to begin with. Again, that does not exclude that these tools are out there. But at the same time, Evoto's not the only tool that has this out there. And we told them we don't like it, and they took it down. And again, do I trust them? Do I not trust them? Do I believe that they're not going to sell this to someone else, or that they're going to repackage it under a different name? I know all those speculations are going out there. Again, that's just speculation. Do you trust them? Do you not trust them? You can already do this in Photoshop. You've already been able to do it in Photoshop right now. If you upload a selfie to Photoshop, you select the whole thing, click generative fill, set it to Nano Banana and say, turn this into a professional headshot. It will do it right now in Adobe Photoshop. And nobody out there is screaming for Adobe to refund them, or I'm no longer using Lightroom or Photoshop anymore because this is out there. It's already there. And if we said, Adobe, we hate this, take it out, I don't want to speculate, but my personal opinion, Chris Gronde, do I think Evoto's going to care 2 cents whether I want that in Photoshop or not? I don't think so. They're even bigger than Evoto is. So
yeah, but
that's the part where I think that they're trying to do better.
Yeah, but I think what Adobe didn't put out a promotion saying replace your headshots either. So
again,
part of it is
you're
the message.
absolutely
It's
right.
the messaging. I don't think.
Yes.
I'm with you on that one. I don't think it was necessarily the tool that pissed her. I think it was the messaging behind it.
Yes,
Like,
and they have to really. They got to come out with some ad campaigns and get the ambassadors and even little affiliates like me on board and really show that they're supporting professional photographers, and then they're not trying to replace them. that again, that little line in the FAQ is the reason that I didn't speak. Now, after I talked to them and everything, do I kind of regret pulling out of my talk? A little bit, but I needed time to be level-headed about, do I want to support them as a company? Do I not want to? Do I really think that they're supported? Am I doing this just for the money because they're paying me? If I feel uncomfortable, I'm pulling out. I'm just gonna.
I feel you.
They're paying me to do this talk, so I'm gonna do the talk because they're paying me. I never want to be that kind of person. So I took back, and they're not paying me for that day. So that is what it is. And I was okay with walking away from that money if I want the people who follow my content, who consume my content, to trust what I say in moving forward. So if I do say, hey, don't cancel your subscription with a Voto, I want them to be like, well, Chris said it's cool, so I trust him, even if you don't necessarily trust the Avoto headquarters in Singapore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Like, one of the things I'm big about, whether it's I talk about it on the podcast, I talk about it just in life in general. I don't take any sponsorships or ambassadorships with companies I don't use. But whether it was an album company, whether it was a software, whether it was like, again, I use 17 Hats. I promote 17 Hats. I'm an ambassador for 17 Hats, but it's something that I use. I won't sit there and tell people, oh man, go use that one. They're cheaper. Yeah, there might be some alternatives out there that might be cheaper than 17 Hats, but 17 Hats is what I use. It's easy, and I've been able, like, the biggest thing for me is I do it from my phone when I'm on the go. I need that versus, like, I don't want to be out and then go, hey, babe, as soon as we get home, I gotta get in front of the computer, I gotta do a contract, and I gotta write an email to a client. I can literally do all that, while we're waiting for our food. And I love I'm able to do. It's just, I use that as an example. Same thing with albums. Yes, there are tons of album companies out there. I found an album company that I gelled very well with. I like the way, their quality of their work or whatever. Yeah, is there an album company that's probably cheaper than the one I'm currently using? Yeah, there is. But the one that I'm currently using, I feel any job that I send them, I feel important. I feel like my work matters to them, and they're gonna give the same level of craft and care to that work, to that album, as I do to my client. So I feel like it's matching energy versus I'm not client number such and such, but hey, you know what? You only had to spend $120 on that album, but your client, such, if there's an issue and you call them, they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, we'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. Versus the current album company that I use, Dreambooks. If I reach out to them, they're reaching out back to me fairly quickly. Because we met, it's quality over quantity, and just those little things I still think matters. Did I stop using Evoto because of what happened? No, I didn't. I just said, man, I want to see what the rebuttal is. I want to see what the aftermath is. I want to see if they double down and like, man, get over it. You're not going to get rid of us. Then it's like, okay, watch this. I'll figure something else out. If you're going to be very callous to us as photographers. I feel like their response, like, cause I didn't read it all, but I don't feel like they're being callous in their approach. But I still think, like, you can't. This is something that waiting it out is not a good idea, in my opinion. I think
Oh yeah, and
you need to,
I
you like
honestly, I feel like
leave it
some of
alone and
their
don't die, eventually die thing is not in this matter. It's not going to go away. People are going to keep. So what is going to be your true response? Like, I get, okay, if the Singapore team did something behind your back and didn't include you in the conversation, I'm willing to believe that and let that, because I mean, hell, that's international companies. Shit like that does happen. So, they just say,
it's a
hey, we're focused.
major multi-million-dollar
Yeah,
company, and
exactly. So
I
there's a
still
lot
feel
of
like some of their
layers.
explanation, someone who has worked in the
Hmm.
IT field, when they're saying that, like, this wasn't an Evoto product, this was an API that we licensed out for another company to use our technology. And I think Mark Wallace was on the Outspoken Artist podcast and was
Hmm.
saying that this was only it was one manager and one developer. Hey man, I've worked in IT and I use APIs, and I understand that, like, I couldn't just license an API. I have to talk to the IT security team. They have to open those ports. There's all these pieces that have to be involved. So some of the explanation still doesn't pass the sniff test for me. And I know that any company they don't want to throw people under the bus and things like that. But at the same point, we've passed that point. You have to be fully transparent at this point. And they've admitted that they made a mistake and they apologize for it. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy, long road for them to come back. But I'm still going to continue to work with them. I'm still going to use the product. I'm still going to be in there with the WPPI. So come see me, WPPI, if you're going to be there, and everything. So I feel confident supporting them right now. Again, if something crazy
if they double down at the
two
next
strikes, you're out at this point.
WPPI, they announce a whole nother product launch. You can be like, mother.
Yeah, you got one. You got
like,
one more.
Come on.
Yeah, before. I'm.
And it's like at Texas school, they announced this one because they're no longer they're not with Shutter.
There's no amount of money to make me turn my eyes twice. But
I was laughing like when they were like the aftermath was like, dude, they got taken off of Shutterfest. I'm like, well, they're still going to these other ones, so it's not like they're not completely dead in the water because there's other conferences that are still having them. I said, but I think because of, like I said, the messaging, you had to be reactive and you couldn't wait. I look at Sal's stance was he couldn't wait to see whatever, like, hey, you know what? We're gonna react too, and this is how we're reacting. If you want to make this right or whatever, we can revisit this conversation a year from now. Let y'all take this year to smooth y'all shit over because you got a lot of explaining to do, and we'll go from there. But we can't say, okay, you know what, we'll give y'all a second chance, and then let's say you do double down and pull another stunt, and it's like, oh shit, now we're in the crosshairs or we're catching stray bullets because of us giving you a second chance when it was prematurely. It's like, let's see how you guys react to this. Let's see how you quote unquote do right by us, and then we'll go forward from there and see what happens next. I think that's going to be the play that a lot of people are going to have with it, which is again, to me, I think there's no right answer to this. There's no wrong answer. There's really just everybody's got to react the way they're going to react, because it's easy to say everybody cancel the Evoto memberships, but for some people who rely on using it to do their editing as part of their workflow, you now want them to replace that with something else that they're not familiar with, which means they have to learn a whole new process. So there's processes that need to be restructured. There's other tools that need to be relearned and everything if we were to remove something. So again, this is a leg off of our table that's being removed, and now you got to figure out how to replace that leg for people that are saying, or some people say, hey, look, this leg is damaged, you got to do some fixing on it and go from there but don't put all your weight on this leg just yet. Let's see if this thing takes hold, if we can strengthen it, if we can fix it, and then we'll cross that bridge later. And for me, that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I still got some credits. I'm not going to get rid of them and stop using it and try to figure out another software. But like I said, conference season is kind of my always approach on like who I stay with each year as I renew my contracts yearly or whatever. That's why I do. The only long-term contract I have that exists, and I'm fully transparent with, is 17 Hats. 3 years with them. I signed up 1 because I'm a Black Friday specialist. I will catch that deal on Black Friday because, again, if you can't buy the middle of the year, wait till Black Friday and buy a 2-year contract with them or a 3-year contract when they offer it for a low price, and you're set for a couple of years. And then
I'm grandfathered into that 10-year-old price with 17 Hats. I've been using them since the very beginning. I'll never move to another one because the price is too good.
I remember when I first heard about it.
Platform.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing invoicing this way. Like, I do it this way. I'm okay with it. And it was like, once I think where it shifted for me was when Adobe, because I used to do my e-signatures through Adobe. When Adobe separated that and then started charging me monthly for that, and I was like, dude, I'm not paying $20 a month. I'm already paying $20 a month for my Lightroom and Photoshop. I got to pay another $20 to get people to sign their contracts. Like, no, let me see what else they got out there. And then that's when I started searching around, like, how can I get, I just need something for e-signatures. And then somebody says, why don't you use your CRM? I was like, which one? They're like, well, who do you have? And I was like, well, I've got this. I can get a contract with this. I can get I can use Tab. I can use here. I'm not with anyone. Sky's the limit. And it was really just once I got to 17 Hats, and what helped me was a lot of my friends were using it. But then once I sat down at their booth and started watching them show you how to do things, the fact that they're willing to teach you how to use it and make it better, that's what really sold me on it. And I think, and it's like that with everything we do. So it's just like, whatever I use is what I use. I'm not saying mine is better than yours, but it's something. And something is better than nothing. And getting things done is better than making things perfect. And I think that's where people make the mistake in our industry is they don't believe that done is better than perfect. They think everything has to be perfect. There's never such thing as being perfect in this industry, because you may think you've done all the right things, but someone's still not going to like it. So that's why I said being done is a hell of a lot better than being perfect.
Oh yeah.
And then just being able to pivot when things go awry, when stuff gets taken away from you and you now have to pivot. Like I said, I used an editor because I felt I was taking up too much time to edit. That's why I hired an editor to give me back my time, because I don't have at the end of the
Yeah.
day to get up at 10:30 at night to edit for 2 hours when I need to go to sleep and get up for the next day. Once I got to a position where, okay, they were doing that, but then once they created something that helped me say, oh wait, I don't need to take 2 hours to edit. I only need 90. I only need 60 minutes. I only need 40 minutes. Okay, well, let me play with this a little bit. Oh wow, I was able to do this in record time. It's no different than with AI, with the editing softwares that we use for our weddings. I may have 90 days on my contracts, but the fact that I'm getting weddings done in under 10 days is because of these softwares that exist. The after shoots, Imagines, the Evotos, those things like that have given me back my time. So everything that I did was to always give me back time. I'm not going to implement the software and then still pay somebody to use that software that I'm using, because if the software still gave me the same amount of time that it did without using it, I still have an editor. But because I was able to do it myself, assistant wise, like, I don't have a virtual assistant because I have 17 hats. I don't have an editor because I have Evoto Imagine, combination, or I have, after shoot for my, a commercial company uses me to edit their stuff for them. I run it through after shoot specifically because part of the fees is that I charge them. It pays for my after shoot, but again, when they hand me 5,000 images a month to edit real fast or whatever, too easy. I can do that for them, and I'll get paid what I'm getting paid, but I'm using aftershoot, and I'm honest about it. So it's just things like that where you know we're at an impasse where now you have to start really looking at the things you're doing, and you can't. Everyone's reacting and they're jumping. I think some people just jump on the bandwagons to talk shit about Evoda because everyone else did it, but I always say
Yeah.
like this: if a
The
company
the
finishes that
pitchforks are
bad,
out, man. The cancel
yeah,
culture is
but I
real.
also,
And
yeah, it's real. But
so
I
here's the
also
thing
say,
about that. Here, not to cut you off, but the thing about that is, so I've talked to the team, because I wasn't there on the third day. But I talked to the team and I was like, hey, how's I apologize for not being, hey, I've talked to you guys, like, just know that I still support you, and I'm still going to use the software, and I'm still going to, I'll still see you at WPPI and stuff. Um, but I asked them, like, how was the third day? Like, was it bad? Like, were people demanding refunds? Like, what was it? And she was like, no, it actually was not as combative at all. Some people had questions and we explained and they understood and said that they were glad that they came over to talk to them. And they said, but it was basically just, it was a little slower, but it's also the third day. So it's going to be slow anyway.
yeah,
But I think when you're looking at because every photography group was talking about it, even the sports and volume groups I'm in, every different conference was talking about it. Every senior magazine that I follow was talking about it. And you look at that and you're like, oh, and I had the same fear. One of the, I feared that people were going to come in with signs and protests and things on the third day. And, the loudest people are going to be the loudest people. But the tone in the booth and at imaging was not nearly as bad as it looks on social media. But
oh yeah,
again, that's
social media
literally
exaggerates a lot more.
everything on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally heard stories like people. I sat outside the company, people walking up like, "You sell out." I'm like, "Damn!" Like, could you imagine like going grocery shopping and then somebody's outside calling you a name as you're going in to buy
Yeah.
groceries, and it's like,
Yeah. Right.
how dare you go to Walmart after what they did? It's like, look, that was that one Walmart, that one thing. Like, I still got to buy groceries, and like, look, this is the
Yeah.
only
Right. I
grocery store
still
in
need
my
to feed my
neighborhood.
family.
I have to go there. Like, I can't afford to drive 20 extra minutes to go find a Whole Foods or
Yeah.
whatever you want me to shop at to be in that moment, okay. But like, it's not like people had signs outside the Voto booth going, go somewhere else, or they hate photographers, or get a headshot or whatever type thing as a joke or whatever. you know at the same time, I always say, like, you we can only be offended to the point of what we can afford to be offended. Our offense is what we can afford to be offended by.
Right.
Because if you got a 401k, look at every company you're investing in. Some of those companies may not align to your personal beliefs, but you don't even realize that, because you're like, hey, oh, what are you gonna say? Oh, well, that's my retirement account. I have a account manager that handles all that. But you still supported that company. You still invested in that company. Did you tell your account manager, oh, by the way, don't have any companies that do A, B, C, and D or whatever, take them off of that plan or whatever. Give me a plan that doesn't include that. Like, good luck with that. Like, if you hate Apple, don't invest in the S&P 500 because Apple's on there. If you hate AI, or technology, don't invest in half the companies that feature that. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, you can't benefit from the returns when you're investing in these companies that you quote unquote hate so much as well. Because
Yeah.
as mad as I want to be with Evoto, they still use the same technology that I invest in my personal side on the technology sector. Now I'm talking finances here, but I always say just like across the board, like you may, it's like that with any company you use, whether it's a vendor, whether it's a product, whether whatever, I use this flash. It's easy to say, oh, I would never use this flash because because that person that was an ambassador did this. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, do you know how hard it is to switch systems? Do you know
Yeah,
how
it's
hard it is to say,
expensive. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave Goda because I'm gonna go to Westcott. Okay, good luck with that. Do you have $2,000 set aside to buy all new products and stuff, or are you gonna do it piece by piece and over time change up? Like these are things that you have to be strategic at as well. Like when I left Canon and went Sony, I didn't I was already getting ready to sell my Canon gear to update it anyways, but I went ahead and jumped onto Sony because I wanted to use different style lenses. And then, and that was the position I went. I wanted Sigma lenses. I love Sigma lenses, and I hadn't been able to use that when I went to Canon mirrorless. And I said, okay, well, if I come to a position where I'm going to upgrade my cameras, then that's when I'll explore going back or moving over to systems when I update my cameras. Well, that's exactly what happened. I was getting ready to buy the R5 Mark IIs, and then I was getting ready to buy the 24 105, and I was just like, damn, I'm about to drop 7K on all this shit. Or I can take that $7,000 and just buy Sony stuff and then sell the Canon stuff, which is what I did. And it was I made money actually because my stuff held value. Yeah, you can sell a Canon camera body for 2K and still $2,000. So it's just like, again, you have to look at, as upsetting as it could be in the messaging. I'm not upset at the product. I'm not upset at what it does for me. I think it was tacky as hell to say replace your photographer because like that to me, even though yeah, I'm not a headshot photographer, so I'm only so offended. But still, again, if it starts with headshots though, what happens when it moves to family portraits? What happens when it moves to infant portraits? And it's easy to say like, oh well, us as humans, we create a human connection, we create that emotion, and that's very true. But when someone's trying to save a dollar, be quick because they didn't have time, or let's say they were going to do their newborn pictures that day and the newborn was acting up or whatever, if you tell them, well, I'll tell you what, as a photographer, would I say, you know what, just send me a selfie of your baby and I'll take care of the rest? I would never say that because I know consciously they're gonna look at that picture and at some point they're gonna be like, this isn't real, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh,
it's no
yeah.
different. It's
But
no
yeah,
different
I
than
mean,
like look at it like dating. If you were looking online profiles and you saw an AI generated image, you can be like, how much of this is real? How much of this is fake? Like, no, I want to know that
right?
you got gray hairs in your chin and I want to know that you're slightly balding. And then if I show up to the date and you look totally different, I've seen what happens when people use AI images for their headshots. They AI their stuff so bad because I've seen people show up to conferences saying, "Oh, you're here for so and so's class." They look at the picture and they look like that's them. They look at the picture, they do a double take, like, wait, they're looking at the picture on their phone from their Instagram profile picture, and then they're looking at that person and going, "Oh, they look really different in real life." It's like, yeah, it's like you just been catfished. So it's like. I mean, that's my stance is like I said, the aftermath, let's see how they react to it. Let's before I start like condemning them. Um, my stance is that I still use Evoto for editing piece of it. I'm going to watch very with some
And
educated eyes to see.
fully
I'm gonna see how they
everyone
react to
watch.
this.
Yeah, watch closely what they do. I do not want anyone. I am in no way saying it's not a big deal, blow it off, forget it ever happened. Absolutely not. We
Yeah,
need,
no, absolutely.
we as the community need to hold them accountable. But if we all leave, then there's still no one holding them accountable. I would rather be here and have a direct communication to their US marketing team than to
Mhm.
say, I don't want to be in, I don't want to, I'm not making content for you anymore, and then leave and then
But
have no
and you
one
guys being
telling them the things that I'm telling them.
in the position, like I always say, sometimes things may not go the way we want it to go, but when you have people in place within the system, you can make changes a lot more effectively that way by having the ambassadors or the people that they sponsor say, "Hey, look, I'm talking to my crowd right now. They don't like this." That's going to have a lot more impact than saying,
Yeah.
you know what, everybody cancel their memberships because guess what? There's going to always be someone that's willing to say, "Hey, I'll take a sponsorship."
Yeah.
I joke about being a NASCAR driver when it comes to photography. Like, I make jokes that I'll go with any company that's willing to get on my jumpsuit. But the reality is, I would never promote or endorse a company that I'm not willing to use. And I've seen it. Like, I've seen people like, oh, they're sponsored by Spider Holster, but then you see them using a Holdfast, and it's
Yeah.
like, where's your Spider Holster? I don't use that shit. I hate it. It messes up my jeans. Like, I thought you're sponsored by them. Yeah, I am. Here, yeah, here's my promo code. Use your promo code. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
what?
They have a whole list of
Just
promo codes on their website,
yeah.
but they don't use any
They're
of those
they're
products, you know?
they're I've seen it before where they used lighting companies, but then they show up to a shoot when no one's watching and they're pulling out pro photos. Like, I thought you were sponsored by so and so. Like, oh yeah, and what you got pro photo for? You know, or they get sponsored by pro photo knowing that their audience can't afford it, and it's like, I've seen both sides of the coins with this stuff like that. But just again, goes back to like, I think going forward, you got to be careful and be cautious about what you're willing to put your name next to, and if companies make do a bonehead move like that, let's see how they react to it and how they recover before we make the decision to condemn them or not. That's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
as my personal brand and me as a speaker or an ambassador or affiliate or whatever comes second to my business. And in my business, my clients come first. So whenever
Absolutely.
I'm making the
Absolutely.
decision, my clients come first. So if me moving from using a Voto to doing frequency separation by hand in Photoshop makes me deliver my photos slower to my clients, then it's, I'm taking a stand, but I'm also providing a worse service to my clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my clients have to come first. So if, let's say there's a better product out there that's better than a Voto and they are a 100% US company, which I don't think you're going to find, then fine, then move to that. And that allows me to provide a better service to my client. I shot with a Nikon DSLR for the last 13 years. I've only had my Canon mirrorless for I think two and a half years, maybe 3 years total. I've Canon mirrorless, and I rented all three of the mirror. I rented a Nikon, I rented a Sony, I rented a Canon, and the Nikon was meh. The Sony I wanted to chuck out the window, and the Canon one I love. So I was like, this is great. I'm going to move to Canon mirrorless. And I footed the bill to move all my glass because I can't have Sigma and Tamron with Canon RF. I can
love
only
my
have
Sigma
Canon
lenses.
RF lenses. So, I moved. I've been reading a lot of books. Jesse Cole, who owns the Savannah Bananas, has his book Fans First. And I love his mantra and everything. So like everything that I do, but to say that I moved from DSLR to mirrorless because it got to a point where I didn't want the latest and greatest gear. It got to the point where my DSLR was slowing me down. And I'm like, I can't do this I'm wanting to do fast shutter stuff, whether I'm, I got a teen swinging a bat or I'm trying to catch a veil flying. And, I'm hearing these mirrorless photographers and their cameras like, like a machine gun. And my DSLR Nikon is like, click, 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 click. And I'm like, this is not good enough anymore. So like, I had to make that jump.
And you mean 7 shutters per second, 7 frames per second?
9 frames a second. If I have my battery grip on,
I remember when.
So yeah, like
when Sony
make
A6000 first came out and they had 11 frames per second. I remember just everyone lose like, oh my God, 11 frames. Like, yes, oh my, this is amazing. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, now it's like 11 frames per second. That's so slow.
So slow. Yeah. So whatever is best for my client, I use H&H Color Lab. I think the products they provide are the highest possible, quality of product that's out there, and they're always innovating and making new products and making their products better. And I've had other labs reach out to me, when we started speaking, like, hey, we'd love you on our education team, blah, blah, blah. And I've said, we're an H&H studio. Like, I'm not going to leave. I love them. I love the people there. I love what they stand for. I've been out to their lab in Kansas City and toured the lab. And I love the products and their edge line and just everything. I love H&H. And I moved, I used Miller's for a while. I used Bay Photo back in the day. I've tried a lot of different labs, but we landed on H&H because I think it allows us to provide a better service to our clients, and that's why we moved to that platform. So every platform I used, we used to do our volume side. We used to do by hand on our website. Our whole ordering system, it was on our website because I'm not giving away 8% of my profit. And we would print out all the orders as a CSV, and we would go in and we would individually put in orders, and there would be misspelled names, and there would be people would be missing prints because we're just everything. It
by
passed
hand.
through too many hands. And we moved our volume site over to Got Photo, and now it's all hands off. And I give away 8% of my profits, but at the same point, it provides a better service to my clients. So
And gives you back your time.
our sales went up way more than that 8% that I'm spending. So again, like, my clients come first. I'm going to use a product that allows me to provide a good service to my clients. If that product is a Voto, I'm going to continue to use that product to provide a better service. I'm beta testing a Voto video right now. Shout out to them. The idea of being able to provide, now that we're doing beauty and boudoir, the possibility of being able to provide a fully portrait retouched video as a product to a boudoir client is, you're just print money at this point.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be able to get rid
that
of
was
wrinkles
I
and
didn't even
stretch marks
mention.
and stuff in a video. Like,
I forgot to mention that. That's why I was like going, fuck, why'd y'all do that? Because I just was like starting to beta test the video stuff because they knew I do video and they knew I did content creation because I was
yeah,
doing some content
it's
creation for
game
money.
changing. And
So I was just like, man, watch out, because like if I turn around, if everyone cancels you and they find that I'm still using you, I'm not gonna hear the end of this shit. Like,
yeah,
do better.
it's just, it is what it is. My clients come first. So my ego aside, me wanting to protect the rights of photographers, yes, there's a place for that, and I'm here for that. And again, I didn't speak in the booth, so I'm not saying blow it off. I made my stand until I talk to you guys and we hash this out. I do not feel comfortable getting in front of a crowd and promoting you until we talk about this, and I can look you in the eye and tell you what my qualms are, and you can give me your explanation.
Absolutely.
Everyone who consumes my content has to be able to trust that I am telling them the truth. And that's what I want for my personal brand, as far as that goes. But I mean, it is what it is. And here we are. AI is not going anywhere, but at least, again, so if you're reaching out to companies and you're talking about headshots, and just because a Voto got rid of their product doesn't mean that technology went away. Again, the technology's in Photoshop. There's probably a dozen apps on the Apple App Store that you can download where you pay $2 and you upload a selfie and it gives you a thing. I've seen a lot of them online. A lot of them I think look garbage. Photos actually look really, the one that was on that website. I don't want to call it a Voto's because I don't think it was theirs really, but it's still their fault. Was actually pretty good. It wasn't 100%, but it was still better than a lot of these apps that I find. But when you're reaching out to companies and talking about doing their headshots, talk to them about their authenticity of them. Like, hey, if your employees' headshots on your website are made by AI, what does that say about you as a company, and your authenticity as a company? Do you want that because you saved a couple $100 by not having a professional photographer? Or do you want a real professional photographer? If you go through TikTok right now, I see so many AI videos that are out there, all these animal videos out there. And when you go into the comments, everyone in the comments is, this is AI slop, get rid of this AI. The pendulum's going to swing the other way, and people are going to not want this AI stuff. So, but
agreed.
I think it's a way for you to position yourself as, yeah, it may be cheaper, it may be faster, but that doesn't make it better. Cheaper and faster, you're in the military just like me. Does cheaper and faster always mean it's better?
Nope.
A lot of these government contracts go to the lowest bidder, and you get this gear and you put it on, and it's garbage because they went with the lowest bidder, and because it was cheaper and faster. So, when you're talking to companies about headshots, let them know, like, hey, what does it say about you if all your employees have fake photos up? Or do you want to come with me, spend a couple extra $100 and get a real authentic headshot? And let your client base know. Again, let them know the same thing that I was just saying. Let them know, put your clients first. Do they want to see an AI headshot of you, or do they want to see the actual doctor that's going to be performing their surgery, or their actual real estate agent, or their, this, that, or the whatever service they provide? Especially if they're a service provider, you need to have a real headshot out there. Or, if your headshots are fake, what else about your company is fake? So that is a way to position and go through that. And I don't think you're going to get replaced. But if it's just a mom and pop who's they're looking for a cheap headshot. They're going to get a cheap headshot, whether it's you, whether it's AI, whether they have a selfie. We've all seen realtors with obvious cell phone selfies on their business cards. Those are the people who are going to be trying to use AI for their headshots, not people who would have used a real professional headshot photographer
quick,
anyway.
Take my camera phone. Get a couple pictures of me real quick. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
yeah. Up against the brick wall in their parking lot. The sunlight is harsh. You know, they got this nose shadow on their face. Yeah. So I think is the state of the market. And I don't think it's as dire as some people on Facebook are making it sound. Again, do not let it fly, but at the same point, I think we're going to be okay.
Did I lose you?
Nope. Are you? Oh, yeah, I'm
okay.
Still there.
Yeah, you cut out for a second. I was like,
yeah.
You said do not, and then you froze. I'm like, do not do what? What do we not want to
do? I got you on the edge of your seat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. Like, I think it's not as dire as people are making it out to be on social media. Just like everything else you read on social media, it's not as bad as people are making out.
Well, I think we've already
loud people are going to be loud.
I think we in record time peaked it, like the offense of what Evoto did and everything that's happened. I think we've already peaked it because Photo Stealers already made a post about it. So I'm like, yeah, once it hits Photo Stealers, I feel like that's the peak of it, and then everything goes downhill from there. So I think
that's a conversation for another time. How I feel about Photo Stealers, but
yeah, they're hilarious.
Yeah,
hilariously sad is what it is, but because it's like. It's almost, this is where I said this is when it becomes high school, is because they go and they make a post with no facts, no evidence, no basis, foundation based on what happened.
Watch your mouth. They watch this. That way, they watch this podcast. They're going to come for you.
Hey, you know what? They could probably give me some new followers. That way, the people are like, I'm going to listen to every one of these episodes just so I could talk shit about what he said, what they talked about years ago. Like, the interview he did was such and such. I don't care if it was candid or not. I'm still going to I don't care, dude. Like, I've had people that ever offended. Again, when you got nothing else going on, it's easy to be offended. When you're too busy to be offended, that's when you're like, wait, what happened? That's exactly
too busy to be.
Like, why did I go to bed early?
That's too busy to be offended. Yeah. I like
that's what it was. Like I said, I didn't know what was going on because I was asleep, and then I woke up and was like, what the hell did I wake up to? Like, damn, I take one nap.
Asleep. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning reading comments and
when I woke up, it was like, because I had a hotel, so I don't sleep well because I'm not at home. And I woke up, I was like, well, I'm up for the day. Like, damn, it's only 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just gonna be up for a while. And then that's when I was like, oh, I'll just send out emails, I'll just do some general work stuff. But then I look at my phone and I see missed message. I'm like, so my instinct was, oh shit, something happened at the house. So I'm going through checking to see, make sure there's nothing from my wife. And then I'm like, fuck you, Voto. What the hell's going on? Wait a minute. What? And I was like, oh shit. Like, what did I miss? That's how my day started. I was like, well, this is about to be fun. So it was an interesting couple of days. It's been an interesting few days. Like I said, everyone's reaction. And I think some people's reaction was because the crowds were watching them. But I said, let's give it a week and let's see what everyone's real reaction is. Because it's easy to say, like, oh, wait, this person said something bad. This person said, let me say something bad so I don't look bad in this moment. Versus next week's like, all right, seriously, though, but I'm running low on Evoto credits. Do I go ahead and renew it behind everyone's back or wait for them? Like, I'm waiting on the apology tour to happen. And I'm waiting on them to say, hey, you know what? We're going to sell credits for the next 6 months really cheap just to get back in everyone's good graces. I'm hoping that happens so I can buy some more credits for a really low price because, we ain't got to all suffer here.
I hope they put some good messaging out and really just hammer home that they're here for us and that they will continue to be a professional photography, editing suite and not anything else. It's
like
only time will tell. Believe them or don't believe them.
America. Let's treat it like corporate America. This was a bad week for us financially. Let's take the weekend. Let's recalibrate. Let's have a drink. Monday, let's hit it hard. And let's see what happens on Monday. They hit it hard and they come out with a good apology. Like, all right, it's been a hell of a week. We heard you. We listened. This is what we're doing going forward. And
but if you see them at WPPI or any other, go up to them and let them know that it's still, if you're still upset about it when it comes to time to WPPI in March, please go up to them and let them know that you are still, upset about it. Be honest.
Just don't do it during the grunt. Yeah. Don't do it during your class.
Don't do it while I'm speaking, obviously. But
because we don't need you to be distracted. I'm on the
But
fence
if
about
anyone else is
WPPI.
speaking, yeah,
Yeah, depending on my schedule, depending on how long I'm going to go to WPPI for, because I may only go for 1 or 2 days just to
yeah,
say
man,
what's
come
up
on
to
to WP.
everybody.
Let's do some cool.
I'm
Let's go out
trying,
to the dry lake beds and do some cool stuff, man.
man. Yeah, I'm set to do Andre's shoot and a couple other things, but I was like, man, like some things are coming up on the pipeline. I was like, do I really do I want to do the back and forth? Because of a schedule. That's what was holding me back, saying I'm better off, like on paper, I'm better off just skipping WPPI, because that way I don't have to do a fly to Vegas, then fly back to Texas, then fly back to Vegas.
What I
Even though I have
really
the
got to
money to
do,
do.
what you really, so if you're cutting things, cut WPPI. I got to get you out to come to Photopalooza up in Washington State in July.
So
That's going to
so
be
fun
a
fact,
new
I'm putting it.
conference. You hear it
No,
here
no,
first on the Shutter Saga podcast.
I
Photopalooza
know
is going to
about
be lit.
Photopalooza. No, Kyla reached out to me because she knows I do content. She's possibly considering bringing me out to do her content work for it, to do all her videos. So I'm like,
Let's
so I
go.
might be there, and I'm like, y'all are gonna be on the U.S. Canadian border, some cool shoots.
Yep,
Like, why not?
PNW, here we come.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
there's a possibility that I'm gonna be a part of that on the staff. The initial conversation has been started. It started at imaging, so let's go. I'm all for it. If she wants to bring me in, I'm more than happy to take these talents and you know create more of avenues, and again support another great conference and be a part of something special. As we grow, because some of the big, like, we're I feel like the big conferences are great, but as you get older in your career, big conferences isn't where you want to be. You want to be at smaller conferences where you can isolate your learning, because it's like, as you, the goal is to grow and learn and get better. I don't need the class that's going to teach me business 101 stuff when I'm not saying I mastered, but I know it already. I don't need to be knowing about a CRM for the first time in my class. What I need to learn is how to dial it in and do certain things, whatever. Oh, how do I run an email campaign within 17 hats? How do I run this within, if I'm doing a wedding show, how do I run, the customer intake forms or whatever to create email blast and email, to follow up with clients. I need that versus how do you input customers into your CRM. What CRM is better for you? 17 Hats or Honeybook or Tabe or whatever. I don't need those classes. I need that. How do I dial it in? So I think that's where it comes into more smaller conferences have a little bit more of the advanced learning, and that's where I'm at in my career. I go to the big ones because I like networking. I like going to cool shoots, bouncing ideas off of each other. That's what I'm there for. But as I learn the business stuff, I need more of a dialed in stuff. I think that's where I'm at now. So but man, dude, I've had you for almost 2 hours. I do not want to take up any more of your time. Like, dude, it's great catching up with you. We
Yeah,
did a
we're
whole
hitting Joe
rage bait
Rogan time right
ranting
now.
on Evo. Yeah. So they got a lot of free content. Was people like, man, they went on a rant. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's about being a great photographer, being a great business owner, and just trying to be a great, hopefully being a great person equates to all that, being great in all those other areas. And I think that's what it comes down to. And, like you said, put your customers first. Same thing with me, put my clients first, and everything works itself out. Dude, thank you so much for making time today. I know it's been a long time
Yeah.
coming getting you on this show, man.
We just got
Give
to get
Brandy
Brandy
my
on
best.
now.
Yeah, I gotta get Brandy. I'll get a bunch of one-word answers from Brandy.
Yeah. Good. Everything. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
No, she's good. She'll talk
16
to you.
years. No said.
Once her introvertedness kind of
Yes.
wears off, she'll talk to you. Yeah.
She's probably in the background, like just cracking up, like, oh God.
Yeah.
She's in the background, like, you still talking to Marvin? Fuck. That's why I
Yeah.
don't want to do a show. I only 20 minutes. It's gonna be a micro show. But yeah. But hey, again, man, where can everybody find you on social media at?
Yeah, so all platforms you can follow me at Grande Photo, Gronde Photo on Instagram, TikTok, our YouTube channel. You can look up Grande Photography on YouTube. We're there. We have our platform, our kind of business and marketing inspiration group, excuse me, called Failure Way to Success with the Grandes on Facebook. Again, we've been failing our way to success for the last 15 years. It's working. We're getting there. Helping people get over their failures and their fear of failure in the group. So go ahead and find us there. Yeah. And at WPPI at Shutterfest, we're teaching 3 classes on seniors there. We'll be teaching a Photopalooza up in the Pacific Northwest in July. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, man. All right, man. Well, hey, again, thanks for being a part of this, man. And man, I will see you on the next go around.
Yep. See you around.
Later.